Hey y'all, we're back with Deep Images. This episode will conclude our two-part symposium on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the entire mythos and the franchise, which we are taking a very deep dive into. Last episode, we presented our roundtable discussing in depth the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We still have a bit more to say about that one, but we're also going to talk about part two, the only really quasi-canonical sequel that makes any kind of sense. Before we get into that, we're presenting Dr. Rhonda Baughman, and she will be extolling at length her views on the entire Texas Chainsaw franchise, including some of the sequels, remakes, reboot. Rhonda will be explaining and contextualizing the highs and lows of the franchise, picking out her favorites, discussing their respective merits. After that, we'll go right into the conclusion of our roundtable symposium on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So let's get into it.
Hey everybody, happy spooky season. But it's spooky season all year long for me, as I suspect it is for some of you. I'm here for the Deep Images podcast to talk about a very important subject. But before I do that, I need to clarify two things. Number one, I am a college professor. I do not teach film studies, okay? I know what happened to the film studies professor at the beginning of Scream 6. I don't teach film studies, okay? In case some of y'all out there watching this take this way too seriously. Secondly, before I became Dr. Rhonda Baughman, before I was even Rhonda to some people, I had a very important nickname. God, it was a great nickname, one I still wear today proudly with a badge of honor. Do you want to know what it is? I can't hear you. I'm gonna tell you anyway. Chainsaw. A nickname given to me by a beloved fourth grade classmate, and I still know where you live if you're watching this. Given to me because of my love of horror movies. To be fair, he wasn't wrong. Deep down, even if I'm Rhonda or Dr. B, that bitch to some people, I'm still, at heart, Chainsaw. So, for the film podcast, Deep Images, all I could do is say thank you for asking me to offer you my thoughts on the entire Texas Chainsaw series. It should only take about 3 to 4 hours, okay? Get yourself some water. Everybody, cozy up. I'm just kidding. It's probably going to take about 10 minutes because this series is so convoluted. I actually did have to take notes, but like timeline notes, because with the exception of, 3 out of the series, I had a really hard time following most of them. So that all said, I can sum it up super fast. 1974 is still the best. The original, the Tobe Hooper, Kim Henkel original, is still the best. And for many, many reasons. It's still terrifying, absolutely terrifying. The score alone, terrifying. The people, their performances, I believe them. I absolutely believe them. And when you hear the bonkers behind the scenes stuff that went on, oh yeah, there's reasons we believe their performances. Things that you're probably not going to get away with on a film set today. But hey, all for the love of art. It's a joy to behold on the big screen, especially if you're seeing it now, right? 2025, everything is crazy. So there's this added element of fear where you're seeing scary stuff on screen and then you're wondering, like, who is also with me in this theater? Probably nothing so interesting as the next Leatherface, but definitely some crazy people, right? And let's talk briefly about why, the very bottom line of why this film still resonates. We do not know anything about Leatherface. This cannibalistic, crazy family led by a guy in like a human face mask, hashtag Ed Gein, yeah, I know. But we don't know anything about them. There's like some grunts from Leatherface. And Gunnar Hansen is the scariest Leatherface of all time. I'm at the top of that hill, and that's where I'm going to stay. I was able to meet Gunnar Hansen 3 times. All 3 instances so memorable, like it just happened yesterday. You know, R.I.P. Gunnar, you were the OG and still the best. And let it be known, he was a poet, a writer, and an English major. Gunnar Hansen was all of those things. You know who else was all of those things? Chainsaw. That's right. So, remember that the next time you decide to poke fun at poets, writers, and English majors. I should also mention that born and raised in Canton, Ohio, we are home to an absolutely fantastic hardcore band called Kill Franklin, led by a local entrepreneur who I will not name here in case he's like, ooh, yeah, I didn't approve that name drop. I remember the band so vividly, wondering, like, did they name their band Kill Franklin after the answer is, yeah, they did. Of course they did. And kudos to them for that. The final girl, all the characters are memorable in their own way, the victims, but the final girl, Sally Hardesty, the final girl's stuff of legend. Like, she gets away, and, you know, while Leatherface is doing his dance of madness, but she doesn't really get away, as you later find out in my other actual favorite sequel, which I'm sure nobody on this podcast will agree with me. Sally Hardesty is the final girl to stuff of legends, laughing maniacally, covered in blood, screaming, like giggling, in the bed of a pickup truck on her way out, supposedly away from Leatherface. That's a final girl that stuck with me for a long time, that I wondered, man, what happened to that chick? Is that what the sequel's going to be about? Oh, and judging from my notes here, the answer is no. Because in 1986, here comes Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Part 2, like as a sequel to the 1974 classic, but also 2 as in, wow, it felt like I was watching 2 entirely separate films. Okay? One film starring Caroline Williams and Bill Moseley, both absolute talented legends, right? And Leatherface, in this particular sequel to, I don't want to get the name wrong, Leatherface is Bill Johnson, right? He's also Bubba Sawyer here, not just like a Leatherface, but he's a Bubba Sawyer. So Bill Johnson does well, terrifying, not quite as terrifying as Hansen, but he's still pretty terrifying, right? So it's like one movie watching those 3, Moseley, Williams, and Johnson. And then it's like a second movie watching Dennis Hopper just be the legendary Dennis Hopper. You know, he's Dennis Hopper, so you're gonna watch him do anything. But trying to smash it all together, it's really awkward. Like, it doesn't work well for me. It's zany and it's zippy, but let's talk about Rhonda's patience meter for a minute. The 1974 classic, I can watch it from beginning to end. My patience stands. Like, my eyes are riveted on the screen the entire time. Whereas for part 2, my patience meter starts to flag a little bit. Like, I realize I get a little antsy and I start looking around like, is there something else I could do while this is on? Like, do I need to vacuum something or dust something? Is there some menial task I can... That's never a good sign. I know a lot of people love Texas too, and I do in certain ways. But, like, the DJ angle is fun. The chili cook-off angle is fun. But I'm tired by, like, halfway through the movie, right? My patience meter is... it's on the downward swing. So as much fun as I can have with that direct sequel, and all the performances and those 2 angles that I mentioned, it's a lot. It's a lot. But one thing I noticed that both movies they do have in common, and I kind of like this, although as a kid I never really noticed it. But later on, as an adult, I'm like, oh my God, the socioeconomic structures behind Texas. You could also tell I was a sociology major at one point. But yeah, long story short there, those two films are really about a poor rural family trying to survive in a brutal capitalistic system. Wow, I can't imagine why that sounds so familiar. I don't know, I should pause there dramatically for a moment and wonder why that sounds so familiar. Don't know. But anyway, both of those get the little chainsaw seal of approval, but you really, really got to drink the Red Bull to be able to get through both in one night if you're running a little marathon, okay? And if you really want to, this spooky season, run that marathon, go ahead and slap on part 3. 1990, I believe, was the release date there. Yes. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Leatherface. You know, the Saw is family. Here comes some documentaries as well. But what's really notable about part 3 is we get legendary badass David J. Scow for the screenplay credit. Oh yeah, that guy, the Crow guy. We also get legendary badass William Butler. Yeah, he bites it pretty early on to me, but he's cutie patootie William Butler. I'll watch him run around and do anything. Even now, William, if you're watching this. And we also get the legendary Kenny Foray, like Oh Ye of Dawn of the Dead fame, in top form here, okay? And some dude named Viggo Mortensen, whatever. Put all of these legends together, and you do have a fun third installment. The only scene, though, however, the problem here is, because it all just runs together, again, there's only so many, chainsaw moments you can have. The metal fight scene, the metal music fight scene between Kenny Foray and Viggo Mortensen stands out as my favorite part of the film. And whenever anybody says, hey, let's watch Leatherface 3, I'm like, okay, because I know that scene is coming. And I'm very excited for that scene. I think Leatherface is just junior here. If you're trying to keep track of where we are on the timeline based on the names of Leatherface, good luck, okay? Yeah, he's just junior here for whatever reason that serves. This is also where the KNB boys make their first appearance. The Kurtzman, Nicotero Burger guys. You see them again in the 03 Texas, the 06 Texas, and the 13 Texas. So that's pretty noticeable there. I always enjoy it, when those guys are on board. I'm like, oh, this is about to get gross, of which I enjoy. I do like the running Polaroid camera, hitchhiker, beggar scene. You see it in 74. You see it again in part 3. I'm not a photographer, but as a Polaroid taker myself, I much prefer the Fuji Instax, all right? So if you see me at the side of the road and I ask for $5 because I took your picture, just cough up the $5, okay? Okay. Don't worry, we're still friends. So those 3 formed to me what was for a long time just the trilogy. And then here comes the biggest disappointment of all. You know what I'm going to talk about. All I know is Texas Chainsaw 4, The Next Generation, was shot sometime in the 90s, somewhere between 94 and 97. Either way, for me, that's pre-internet madness. So you've got to understand, this wacky-looking film just materialized. It magically appeared in my local video store, and I was so excited. I ran to get it. I threw down my hard-earned money from my minimum wage, $4.25 an hour job, and I'm like, this is going to be epic. Who is Renee Zellweger? I think she was in some other movies. Oh, and Matthew McConaughey. Sweet, sweet Matthew McConaughey, who I will also watch in anything else, right? So I'm excited. I'm getting ready. And what I see is an absolute 90-minute mess. I couldn't follow it, and I was sad. I just remember my initial disappointment was more sadness than anything else. It wasn't the sequel that we'd all been hoping for, not by any stretch of the imagination. But what I mostly think of now, I did try to watch it again recently, and it's what a mess still, is the amount of party elements that appeared to be present on screen. If you just follow some of the characters, say in the kitchen fight scene, you can actually see them do things like I would think that maybe as a director, you might want to edit that part out. I'm not a director. I don't know. But it was painfully obvious what was going on in that scene. And you've got his little mechanical leg, Matthew McConaughey, and Renee Zellweger just looking really confused the whole time. Like, her character looks confused. I think she as a person was confused, because the viewer, in fact, is confused. And what was such a bummer was the leather face mask. He's not even leather face. He's like leather in this, or leather slaughter, or what? I don't know. But either way, I suspect something happened here as well, with shooting and who had the rights and who wanted to distribute and blah, 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 blah. And it's, we the viewer are the ones who suffered for this. Are there some fun elements in this movie? You bet. Are they absolutely buried after you see the leather not face mask up close? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's so terrible that I not only wasn't scared, I was annoyed. Okay? I was annoyed. I would have probably seen that mask had I been the one in peril and just found the largest stick. We're not talking about Michael Myers anymore. We're talking about Samhain and druids. Cool. I like those things, except it just didn't belong in that particular film. So, unfortunately, the trilogy then remained a trilogy for me. By the time we get to part 4, I tapped out for a while. So imagine my surprise with the reboot in 2003, or as I like to call it, the one that stars Jessica Biel. Saw it in the theater. It was a lot of fun. I had to rewatch it again. Why don't you ask me then what I remember from the '03 Texas Chainsaw? Go ahead. I'll wait. You can ask me. Cool. Nothing. It's very sleek. It's very modern. And like the next installment, unfortunately, highly forgettable. Such a bummer. They're fun for a party night if you haven't seen it in about 15 years, or if you have friends and you can, joke during it and get snacks. But other than that, the '03 version, the Jessica Biel, is really neat. There's nothing memorable about it. And then the same thing happens for the 2006 Texas Chainsaw, The Beginning. The '06 version is actually a prequel to the '03 version. That's where I started taking actual notes, by the way. The '06 version is the one that stars Jordana Brewster. That's how I keep track of the '03 version versus the '06 version. '03 is Jessica Biel. '06 is Jordana Brewster. The end, because it's 50 Shades of Grey. And I don't mean cool bondage fun. I mean the color palette for the entire film. It's just various shades of gray for me. I wanted to find something I liked about it. I took a lot of notes. I really couldn't think of one neat thing that I could get super passionate about for either '03 or '06. And weirdly, Leatherface here is Thomas Hewitt. So this little timeline, this reboot timeline, is all by itself here. A lot of people loved it. I get it. I will never stomp on that love. Go '03, '06 Texas Chainsaw love. Unfortunately, it's just not here. I found both of the films really, in addition to being very gray, also very hopeless. Like, there wasn't anyone for me to root for, bad guy or good guy. It was just, ooh, how much longer until we get to the credits where, so if you want to talk about the Rhonda patience test, for both of these, it flagged about 20 minutes in. It might be more fun in that community setting on the big screen, maybe, but probably not, okay? And unfortunately, the rest of my video essay here for you is highly controversial, okay? Because next to the 1974 version, my absolute favorite Texas Chainsaw is Texas Chainsaw 3D that came out in 2013. I don't care about the 3D aspect. I thought it was neat and funny, but I don't really care about that. No. Just based on story alone, this is my favorite version. I adore this version. Alexandra Daddario stars. That guy, Sean Sipos, that would pop up in Reacher Season 2. He's in it for a hot minute. I think Clint Eastwood's son pops up. Fun stuff. But it's the story I love for this. And speaking of Sally Hardesty, the woman who played her, who would pass away a year after this film came out, Marilyn Burns, she appears in this reimagining, 2013 reimagining. She's not Sally Hardesty. She's Verna Carson, right? And she wills, after her death, this big, beautiful house with the big, beautiful gate and the spooky family cemetery out back. She wills it to granddaughter Heather, Alexandra Daddario. Now, most guys are like, ooh, I watched Daddario in anything. Yeah, that's true. But more importantly, the story here, it's so much fun. There's the mystery room angle. They also pick up a drifter, but it's not what you think. The ending was fun, right? The epistolary aspect of this film, hilarious, okay? But, you know, most of all, this film is dogged for one line. I'm not even going to tell you that one line. And I'm not going to give you any actual spoilers because I thought this one was fun and I'm on that hill with Gunner is the best and this is the most fun one next to 1974. I'm on that hill and you will not knock me off that hill. Unless, of course, the new one that comes out is better. But I digress. Such a fun story in 2013. The cast, I had a good time with that too. But overall, all of those other things I mentioned and that one line that everybody hated, I loved it because I flat out can tell you right now, if I was in that setting of a terrible small town with terrible people and their terrible secret and a very wealthy grandmother who just gave me her cool house, I would have said the same thing. That terrible line, I'd have said it out loud too. Don't even care. So here comes 2017 with Leatherface. Another prequel, and this one did not work for me for the simple fact, and it's too bad it didn't work either, because it's got Lily Taylor, and I love Lily Taylor. We'll watch her do anything. Stephen Dorff as well. A lot of fun for the cast, but another origin story where we find out why Leatherface is as he is. And here he's Jedediah Sawyer, the name I most associate with him. There's really no more mystery now that we know why young Leatherface became young Leatherface. And really, after you watch all of these terrible things that happened to him, I'd have probably picked up a chainsaw too. I did. And terrible things did not happen to me. So that one, that threw that theory right out the window. It's still a good watch, but it's a slow burn drama. It did not feel like a horror movie at all. Hardly did it feel like a Texas Chainsaw movie. And while it was worthy of one watch, I did try to go back and rewatch it. My patience test was just gone. I probably lasted 10 to 15 minutes before I was like, who are all of these people? Get me another piece of paper and a pen so I can make a flow chart for this film, right? Ouch. So Leatherface 2017, good for a watch, but I don't really think of it in the canon, although it is in the canon. And last but not least, my personal favorite, and here's where I think many of the esteemed members of the Deep Images podcast might be like, man, we got to cut this out. She talks too long and she's wrong. I had a lot of fun with the 2022 Netflix Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which serves as a direct sequel to 1974. Okay? Is it great? No. But was it fun? Yeah. I still prefer the 2013 story, the script. But this script isn't bad in that it's fun. It shows you the perils of gentrification. It shows you what happens to towns and their people when they have absolutely no access to resources. Gee, can't imagine what that sounds like either. So they managed to also work in to the plot, like a subtext underneath, a school shooting and why influencers need to go. And if you're telling me that you haven't gotten sick of influencers by this point and you didn't giggle a little bit when you watched that bus scene, are we even friends? I don't know. But I had a good time with it, and I was the most surprised of anybody that I actually had a good time with it. I was as shocked as anyone, I can promise you that. I don't enjoy a lot of newer horror films. There's a few that have gotten under the wire there, you know, Good Boy, looking at you, Weapons, looking at you. But 2022's Texas Chainsaw Massacre was a ton of fun. And least of not which those reasons are, my final girl comes back, Sally Hardesty. They give me the 1974 sequel that I wanted 25 years ago. But man, did they do a good job. We find out Marilyn Burns, of course, had passed away since then. So we have the new character, the new woman, I should say, who's playing Sally Hardesty's character. And it is exactly what I had hoped for, that she would become. This ultimate warrior, right? On a mission looking for Leatherface for like 30 plus years. And that's why I also appreciated the 2022 film. It should have been the end. It should have been the end to Sally Hardesty's story, and it should have been the end to Leatherface's story. Which the 74 and the 22 together would have been pretty perfect for me. 2013 would have just been a bonus. So what unfortunately killed the 2022 version for me was the end. It's like set up to keep going nonsensically. It would have actually made a whole bunch of sense. Except the ending, of course, we just can't let a film go anymore. We have to, franchise it to death. So while I'm sure there's a new one coming, I don't know that it would make sense to carry on with the final girl as it appears in the 2022 version. But who knows? I'm just a writer. I'm not a screenwriter. But if there's any way that this new one could work another Sally Hardesty angle in there, you will get me to watch. I can promise you that. So there you have it. My sort of brief thoughts on the Texas Chainsaw series. So if I were to place them in order, really the top three are the original, 2013, and 2022. The rest of them are great, and they all get my little chainsaw seal of approval. But really, do we need another one? I'm not sure. I'll watch it. Not a problem. I don't know. What do you think? You know what I need now from you? $5. I'll wait. I'm going to put this right here until you PayPal me. Rhonda Baughman at hotmail.com. Or at least buy me a cup of coffee. And don't make me mad.
How about we ask Justin, because I found out an interesting fact that he had never seen this before. So I want a fresh perspective on this.
Yeah, yeah. So I'd certainly heard of it, and I'd heard of Leatherface, but didn't somehow connect it to an actual character because I hadn't seen the film. But I did see a sequel to it, which is probably about 2019, 2018 sequel, but I saw it on Netflix about 3 years ago. It was Texas Chainsaw #4 or something. And it was all right, but I wouldn't write home about it. You know what I mean? But there was
Hmm.
kind of like a junior Leatherface type character in there as well, which I can now match to the original Leatherface. Um, but when you see it for the first time, I came away, my main impression was, shit, that was really intense. It was a hard watch. And I found myself with the last 15, 20 minutes with all the screaming from Sally and her running. I just wanted that to end. I just wanted that to be some sort of resolution so that she would stop screaming. But of course, it was
Well,
the usual.
even when she's saved, she's screaming, but then she's laughing
Yeah, it looks
maniacally.
like she's laughing hysterically right at the end.
Right.
Her mind is like mush now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I read somewhere it's the usual cliche that was adopted in many other horror films after that, that there is a lone woman. There's always a lone woman
The final
in
girl.
The final girl,
the
yes.
final girl
Yeah.
cliche, which is a trope, which is a sole survivor. A bit
Right.
like the Friday the 13th, some of the Friday the 13th or Halloween type films.
Oh yeah,
And you can
Yeah.
see how certain
Right.
films are borrowed from this early film, which is, I didn't know was as early as 1974. If you've seen Wrong Turn, that
Oh yeah.
seems to be just another
Yeah.
version of this film. They've even
Sure.
got the trope of the gas station attendants who are, they're like hicks or hillbillies
Right.
themselves. You know, you can't trust them. And they're the
Yep.
gas station attendants and say, don't go to that house. You don't go any further down that road, sort of thing. And then you've got the cannibal family, which to me, having seen Wrong Turn several years ago, which is a 2005 film, I think, you can see how heavily it's influenced by the
Right.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah, they're well. Rob Zombie's made a whole cottage industry. The Firefly
yeah,
family saga, which is 3 films, it
Mhm.
is. I mean, they're like the cousins of the Sawyers.
Sure.
They're. It's exactly. I won't say it's exactly the same thing, but it's the same tropes, the same
Same
structure.
basic premise, yeah.
Yeah,
Hills have eyes too. Yeah.
hills have eyes, and then there you get it, and where they started getting more mutated,
Right.
physically mutated. Not just creepy and crazy mass, but they're just like, and yeah, hills have
and I think
eyes.
for me, one of the most disturbing things, apart from the bed, the skulls, the skeletons in that side room was pretty disturbing, but also the corpses, or what you thought were corpses upstairs, like granddad, and he was actually still alive. So he's got this leather, pale, bedraggled leather face, and he's actually sucking on her finger,
Yeah.
Sally's finger, when they've cut her finger. I thought, oh my God, he's still alive, and I think the
Yeah,
character was also shocked that he's still alive as well.
he's barely alive, and I guess they keep him alive with blood. I guess
Well, I think
Yeah.
he's probably too feeble to eat the meat. He just sucks the blood.
the one thing I caught off that today for the first time ever, it never really registered with me before, is when he starts sucking on her finger, he just starts moving around like this, and it's
Yeah.
almost like when you feed a baby
Mm.
and they start kind of moving around. It's just like he's being nourished and nurtured or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to nurture him, not back to life, but to have some semblance of life.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Here, we're gonna need you to swing that hammer later, Grandpa. Yeah.
and yeah, that's where you get really disturbing. Yeah, the way they torture Sally is obviously an influence on torture porn films. I really think it's not graphic physically. Like, they don't really just permanently damage any part of her body that I can tell, except maybe her mind. They
Yeah,
cut
she
her
may
up.
damage her own body a lot more,
Yeah,
really,
she
jumping
runs
through
through
all those
shit.
windows.
Right, but I mean, it's not like a torture porn nowadays where they like cut her finger off, cut her arm off, make sure she's still awake. Those are the things that I personally dread in movies or situations in real life that I've read about. They're horrifying. So back then, you still had the comfort. At least the person isn't dismembered. At least they're dead when they're getting disemboweled. But no, horror movies now insist that humans can take just about any kind of punishment and still be alive, conscious, and aware. And I don't think that's correct, but I'm not a doctor, but
But
Mm.
what's shocking about it is the guys are intent on having Grandpa kill her to the point where they're trying to put the hammer in his hand and he keeps dropping it, which is horrifying and funny,
yeah,
Right.
which raises that issue of horror being elevated by comedy and the horrificness of the situation actually being blackly funny.
because it's so
Mhm.
ridiculous and
It's
absurd and crazy. Your mind
Yeah.
can't process it.
exactly. I couldn't process it when I
Yeah.
first saw it. I thought, oh my
There's
God.
some scenes early on that
At the same time, yeah, it just adds to the horror because it goes to 11.
Yeah.
right. When the hitchhikers kicking their van, I think that's fucking hilarious.
Right.
His little
Yes,
expressions and
Yeah.
and some of the things
And
Franklin
his
does are
reaction.
kind of funny,
Yeah.
maybe not intentionally. Yeah, the torture with the hammer is intense, and it brings back what they were talking about. That my grandfather worked in the slaughterhouse, so this is actually the character that he's bragging to Franklin, and Franklin's like, "Oh yeah, cool, man," and you don't really hear a lot about what they do. That all falls on the shoulders of the third brother, which is unnamed in the movie. Some of the credits call him Old Man, but his character's name
The
is
cook.
Drayton Sawyer. Drayton Sawyer,
Right.
played by Jim Sedow, who reprises the role in the second movie and does a fucking awesome job.
I actually thought he
The
was
cook.
he was maybe the father because he's a bit older than the other
He's
two.
not.
But
That's what a
you
lot
think
of
he's an
people
older
think.
brother?
No, I know
Yeah,
he's an
yeah.
older brother. Yeah. The thing about these movies is they have a lore, and you go deep into it. You have to like piece a bunch of movies together and then have theories, and then eventually somebody's like, "Okay, I guess that's what happened." So that's what's happened with Texas Chainsaw. It's all clues. It's like a mystery. And I was going to say he appears earlier in the movie as an innocuous gas station guy. So then,
Right.
right there, he's
Yeah.
in front of them. Even is that
Yeah.
right after they meet Hitchhiker?
And there's foreshadowing too, because you see something like barbecue in that gas station.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when
Side,
the incredible thing is Sally runs from Leatherface all through the house, up and down the house, all out into the field, and then she gets all the way down the road to that gas station, and Leatherface is still behind her, and
Yeah.
then she runs into that room and slams the door, and that guy has rescued her, the Jim Sedow character, and of course she immediately thinks, based on his looks and his rural ways, he's some kindly old guy geezer who will call the police, and she does start to notice. She's so hyper fixated. She does notice the meat, but this time she notices
Yeah.
some of it looks kind of like a human torso. And
yeah.
it's a little disturbing. She's still not 100% sure, I guess, because when he does tell her don't call the police and he's going to take her away, she seems shocked still, but she's probably been in shock the whole time. And he gets a sack out and he's laughing. So these people are maniacs. The hitchhiker laughs about everything. This guy laughs, and when he puts her in the sack, I read that when they filmed it, Jim Sedow said, "Yeah, when I filmed it, I was just doing like this with the broom, just to fake it, right?" And Toby's like, hit her with it." And he said, "I just started smacking the hell out of her. I didn't want to, and it was very effective." It's like, he didn't mention how Marilyn Burns felt, but and that's when they take her, and then that's when you see the whole tableau of the house. You see the dining room where you see like even more crazy oddities, like the lampshades that human faces are on, and then they just have dinner with her, and she's shackled, and it's a nightmare. The music starts going up a notch, and they're making fun of her. They think it's just hilarious, like when she says, "He'll let me go," and the hitchhiker's like, "No, he won't," and just making fun of her. And she really still clings to this idea that the most human looking of the three is going to somehow take mercy on her. And that's what she's hoping for. I guess most people would, right? But
what did Stephen King famously say? It's a movie that looks like it was made by actual cannibals because they're laughing, they're nuts. They're as crazy as anybody you've ever seen on film.
Yeah, the production design is absolutely brilliant for that movie. That house.
That's what I was thinking in the last 20 minutes. I was thinking, who made this film? Are they a little bit sick themselves to have made this film? That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Actually, by all accounts, all of them are pretty nice.
Robert Burns was the production designer. Burns. He did a spectacular job, and he went on and directed a movie called Mongrel, which was an unseen indie Texas horror film for years, and I saw it a couple of years ago. And he has quite an eye for disturbing images.
Oh, wow.
Because that whole house in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is really a house of horrors.
Yeah, they took all the Ed Gein stuff. I think they also took, like when I was a kid, my mom told me that the Nazis did these things to people. She said that, and Japanese in World War II. And of course, now we know for a fact the Japanese did in 731.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, any use they could get out of a human body, you know, there's another Chinese person we can just turn into a lamp, you know, and it's just like,
Yeah.
that's what she would tell me. So that's what it reminded me of when I first saw it, that and Ed Gein. And but it's on a different scale than Ed Gein. Like you were saying earlier, AC, Ed Gein wasn't, I don't think, what we would call malevolent.
No,
purposefully.
He really was insane. I truly believe that he had no idea what he was doing.
Yeah, and you know, there's a serial killer like that who's a lot more violent, but doesn't have many victims either. That is totally, you probably heard him, Richard Chase.
Chase. He was schizophrenic.
Right. Yeah, the vampire of Sacramento. He
thought
was
his
totally
blood was
insane.
evaporating.
Blood is seeping through his skin, and his mother had weaned him off of his antipsychotics. So she's directly responsible for his spree. But there was no hope for that guy. I mean, that's the kind of person that you put in an institution for life if you can't put him in prison. And didn't Ed Gein was in a mental hospital till he died, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But Reagan closed almost all the mental hospitals,
right?
Which is where the major homeless problem began, and where you couldn't treat people of this nature, so they're sentencing them to prison. And either one of two things happens: either they get off and everybody's pissed off, the victim's family, or they go to prison with the regular prisoners like Dahmer, and then they get annihilated, obviously, in no time at all. So there's no positive outcome to closing mental asylums. It's just they had such a stigma in my mom's generation that I think Reagan was trying to, as they said nowadays, virtue signal by closing them. Like, look at this. We're going to turn all these insane people into we're going to close these abusive hospitals. But yes, I do believe Ed Gein was like that. And these characters in this movie, though, I believe they are malevolent. And of course, it's just what they say toward the beginning. Pam says, you know, Saturn is a malefic element. So malefic means evil. Well, she says evil, actually, at one point. And she's warning them too, but they're, you know, not listening. She sees Drayton Sawyer as a friend. He doesn't rescue her, but she does get away. Kind of. With more damage.
Jumps through a window.
Jumps through a second window, higher window.
Right.
Yeah.
And
one thing we don't know is, did the truck driver survive? The one who first pulled
yeah,
up?
they don't really.
Yeah, what the truck driver did was
happens.
weird. He panicked. I mean, he got over.
Yeah.
He's running away from his vehicle while this guy's
yeah, boy, he should have just floored it, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
he did throw a wrench and hit the guy in the head.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
So there's other face falls and his chainsaw bites his leg. And when I first watched the movie, I was like cheering for that, really, because they don't really sustain any damage. Another name that the Drayton Sawyer character was called throughout the movie, but they didn't credit him as the cook. That's kind of his nickname, you know.
He's just a cook.
That's the nickname in the second one, but in the second movie, they made it clear he's their older brother, he's their older, less fucked up brother who can actually sort of.
He's the face for the public.
Right. He can sort of be lost in the humanity.
I never took no pleasure in killing. It's gotta be done, but I can't take no pleasure in it.
He manages to go on tangents extemporaneously all through the sequel. He never shuts up once he starts.
Right.
Get out of here,
pig shit. Shows his true colors, though, doesn't he? Because at the end he's saying, "Kill the bitch, kill the bitch, kill the bitch."
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, they're all like,
yeah.
But the thing is, the hitchhiker gets smashed by that aforementioned truck, the Black Mariah.
Yeah.
And I also felt really happy about that, to be honest. And
for
some reason the guy wouldn't keep running, but then she jumps in a pickup truck. And it's like she narrowly is getting her leg cut off while she's jumping into this pickup truck. But, you know, she's laughing like a mad woman, but she's won.
Yeah.
Making fun of Leatherface. Like, you didn't kill me. You didn't break me, motherfucker. I mean, you broke my mind, but you didn't kill me.
And it looks like he's dancing with a chainsaw right at the end, just before the credits come up.
I see that as sexual frustration.
Bergman-esque.
He didn't get off
ending.
by cutting somebody up, so he's just like, And they
Cancer
they use that
frustration.
symbol in the sequel, by the way. They kind of
Right.
Oh
confirm that.
boy,
But
do they.
what's your verdict about this movie? And then let's go forward with the only official in continuity sequel. So what's your verdict on this first movie? No, not everybody go at once. Robert, what do you think?
I love it. When I first saw it, I was in college, and so they were showing it in a rec room dorm, like down in the basement, and they had signs up around campus, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I was like, oh, I got to see this. So it was in this cinder block room that was smaller than a dorm room, and it wasn't very well attended, but the females that were there were screaming while it was running. And I remember walking out of there going like, oh my God, I'm shell shocked. I feel like I just witnessed some gratuitous shit. And it was quite an experience. I never forgot it. But
I,
seeing it like that in a small enclosed space really added to the horror.
One thing that works
Go ahead.
about this film is
Yes.
most films from the 70s of this nature, and you thought were shocking at the time, when you watch them again now, they seem, in the jaded age, they seem quite
Right.
tame. Whereas
Right.
I didn't find this film tame at all when I just watched it.
No, because it has
because it's
that
so intense. It's
it has that
disturbing. Yeah.
intensity, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's to me, it's a true work of art. I don't know if it's in the Museum of Modern Art like Night of the Living Dead is, but I'm sure it is somewhere in some museum because it really is a textbook on how to make a horror movie, to make an independent movie, to make a suspenseful movie, to make a tightly written, wound movie with layers. Somebody's surely just been teaching this movie in courses in college for the last
Oh,
30.
I'm sure.
I mean, and it's really odd because I just finished one of our episodes in this series, and we were discussing Eaten Alive. It was me, AC, and Chuck, and we went on a few tributaries with some directors. But one we lingered on for a little bit was Toby Hooper, because obviously Eaten Alive is his movie also. We threw Wes Craven and some other people in there, but I tried to hone it down to mainly Toby Hooper. But Hooper had a very disappointing career overall after this, very inconsistent.
Mhm.
And I do not think this movie. I think it's his signature movie, but I don't think it's I don't think it's typical of his oeuvre collectively.
No.
Right.
I think it's an outlier, a great
Yeah.
outlier, but I think it's an outlier, maybe almost accidental. Now I've seen the sequel that Kim Hinkle directed and wrote. He didn't go any further than Toby Hooper's creatively at all.
Right.
Maybe worse.
No.
I think he just kept attached to it for the money. I don't know. He seems like a cool guy. The documentaries I watched, Hooper, the footage of Hooper and Hinkle from the 80s, I guess, and into the 90s. I mean, they were like total just affable, happy hippies, very intelligent, very positive. I mean, nothing like I was expecting them to be whatsoever. But I expected like the cynicism of John Carpenter or the, pompousness of Wes Craven. And I didn't get that from Toby Hooper at all. He's like, yeah, man, we made this movie, And Kim Hinkle's like talking about he's talking about like the subtext, and he just sounds like an aging August wizened hippie and looks like one. Um, is he alive? Hope Hooper's dead, but I can't remember if
Yeah,
Hinkle's
he's alive. Henkel's still alive.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Hooper's
it's
dead.
like a magic movie. It's like they captured lightning in a bottle, to use that old cliche.
Oh yeah.
I mean
Because
that yeah.
I agree with you, Henry. It doesn't really fit with Hooper's other works. I mean, Eaten Alive comes the closest, but yet that's stylistically much different because that's set in its own artificial, weird, otherworldly universe. Whereas Texas Chainsaw Massacre is grounded. And I think that's what makes it really scary. I know the first time I saw it was very similar to Robert. It was in a college showing, which was packed. It was in a bigger auditorium. And my roommate was ready to leave after the opening credits with the corpse posed up on the tombstone, and he had his head down, and it got much worse, obviously, for him. And he and I had some interesting movie-going experiences throughout my career. Pink Flamingos was one of them that he had a hard time with, too. But
Yeah.
was
I had all time with that one on videotape.
I saw it in a theater in Philadelphia in a grindhouse one time years later, and somebody had brought like their 5-year-old kid, and they were
Oh
sitting in front of me, and I thought,
my
let's
God.
call Child Protective Services right now. This is
Seriously.
child abuse. You've got a
Yes.
5-year-old watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Warping their brain.
That should not happen.
No, my
It should be at
God.
least 10 or 11.
Yeah.
You have
I mean,
to be this high to ride this ride.
Right.
Yeah.
What they're planning in the script is they're planning this all these signs and portents and omens of things that are happening. It's kind of mystical. I mean, it's a totally grounded movie as far as what we actually see and what happens, but the vibe behind it is very foreboding to almost to a supernatural level, and that's kind of what the filmmakers did. They somehow created this thing alchemically out of all the parts that probably couldn't work on their own. And
I mean, a shout out. We gave a shout out to Robert Burns, the production designer.
yes,
Couldn't have this movie. Wouldn't be as intense without him.
Daniel Pearl, cinematographer.
Danny Pearl, you read my
Yeah.
mind. The cinematographer. The chase scenes at the end with Marilyn Burns running and Leatherface has his chainsaw. Those are some of the most intense scenes in a horror film.
Yeah.
And Pearl went
Got
on
to be
to
handheld. There has to be running too, right?
Sure.
Oh my God. Pearl went on to a really good career. He did a lot of horror films. In fact, he worked extensively for Marcus Nispel, who did the Platinum Dunes, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Michael Bay one.
Yeah, I've seen.
And he actually did a bunch for Larry Cohen. He did It's Alive 3 and Return to Salem's Lot. He directed Captivity, that terrible Larry Cohen written movie that Roland Joffe did, where Alicia Cuthbert is captured by the maniac.
I've never heard that one.
Oh, yeah. And he forces her to eat her own dog as a slurry. Oh, it's just a nasty movie. Oh, man, The Return for Graydon Clark. And he filmed a segment of Amazon Women on the Moon. All movies. But he has to get high props from me because his cinematography is about as effective as you'll ever see in 16 millimeter. It looks grimy and cruddy, but it's not badly done.
It's crystal clear despite that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's brilliantly done.
That's
And it
16 millimeter.
which means it's got the squarish aspect ratio.
Yeah.
It's not widescreen like a Carpenter film. And that to me heightens the terror, which is it looks like a newsreel footage or something really primitive and nasty. And Pearl is there and the camera's always in the right spot. And it also has the Tobe Hooper movie tropes, like from Eaten Alive, where he shows the burnished sunset with the orange and yellowish. It's an amazingly well-filmed horror film. Amazing.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's one of the best. Might be the best. Is that
Agreed.
The guy who did the music, is that Wayne Bell? Or did I get confused?
Yeah, that was Wayne Bell. I think Hooper.
With Tobe Hooper.
With Hooper, yeah. It's that, again, that really dissonant kind of industrial music, concrete.
It's brilliant. It's really, I think it's so well placed. All the cues are, none of them are hokey or advertising what's getting ready to happen too quickly or beat you over the head with it.
No.
It is avant-garde. It is music concrete. It's not a mainstream rock or symphonic soundtrack, and which is fine with me. And
it doesn't rely on the cliched musical stings when there's a horror moment coming.
Yes,
no,
it's
kind of like a disturbing from another galaxy or parallel universe kind of droning, kind of messes with your head when you hear it.
Yeah.
I love watching the ending credits and just hearing that.
Soundtrack, I actually haven't listened all the way through by itself, but I definitely will at some point after 30 some years. I'm sure it's on YouTube, but it's great. I mean, I listen to stuff like that normally anyway. So
the good suspense part for me was when Kirk and Pam, they've gone to the watering hole, which hasn't got water in it, but they go up to the neighbor's house and they walk around and you can hear the generator running.
Yeah.
They walk around the front of the house and Kirk decides to first go up onto the porch and go into the house. So you know something bad's going to happen at this moment, but the suspense builds quite nicely in that part, I think.
Well, and I think it's underlined by Kirk's brilliant observation. Hey, it's a generator.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
he doesn't elaborate beyond how's that going to help us or what.
Right.
He seemed to be of the belief when he heard the chainsaw going, like from the distance, like maybe they've got gas up there.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
right. He
we
wants
can
to
go
borrow
borrow
some.
some gas.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'll
Yeah.
give my guitar as security or something. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
I'll return
They
the
should
gas
have put
to
their
them.
5 heads together and come up with one brain. Any other noteworthy ideas before we just shunt into the aftermath of this movie?
Quite a few, actually. First of all, one analogy I wanted to draw is almost like, to my knowledge, the greatest thrash metal album ever recorded was Rain and Blood by Slayer. And a lot of what was behind that was Dave Lombardo, the drummer, because that thing was, when they wrote it and everything, was basically about your standard 40-minute album. Only by the time they were done, it came out to about a half hour long because Lombardo kept stepping it up. And I can only liken Rain and Blood to the last 15 minutes of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it's just like 15 minutes that no one can top, because the driver for that might have been Marilyn Burns, screaming and screaming and screaming. But it just, goes and goes and goes and does not let up until the closing credits. That to me is the greatest burst of horror movie there is. But there's a lot of subtext to me in that, with just between the old slaughterhouse, and these people have obviously are all cast-offs from the slaughterhouse, and there's a lot to be said about just economic depression and what kind of a landscape that breeds, and versus with also, of course, mind you, the whole aspect of they've just come out of Vietnam. It's
right.
The end of the Vietnam War.
The world is changing, and it's leaving these kind of creatures behind, way behind.
Yeah, yeah.
They're left to their own devices, unfortunately.
And people from the world that presently existed going into that world that is falling apart, just, it's almost like their own personal Vietnam. They don't know what they're walking into.
Yeah. The character, Chop Top, and I can't remember what his character's first name is. Chop Top is kind of the replacement for Hitchhiker as far as a character, but in continuity, he was in Vietnam while the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right.
And the corpse that he carries around is the hitchhiker's corpse. So if anyone was confused about that. So it's pretty, he calls him Nubbins now.
Nubbins, that's
really
right.
affectionate. First he was Hitchhiker, now he's Nubbins. Oh. But go ahead, Chuck. You had some major thoughts.
That's mainly the seeds I wanted to plant.
Those are some good ones.
Just between, just the analogies plus, thrash metal.
Yeah, one of the documentaries I watched yesterday, they interviewed Jim Van Beber, and he's all over the map, and his, he's more scattered in his communication than I am. I've seen him more cogent than that. He's a big fan of Gunnar Hansen. He's a big fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He does sum up, why Texas Chainsaw changed horror. I wanted to say something I totally forgot when we did Eaten Alive is that Van Beber did a short film that was a riff on that same guy you were talking about, you see. The real guy.
Joe Ball.
I guess that's
it had the alligator farm.
It's something like it had an alligator or croc or gator or something in the title. It's not that violent, but he was going to expand it to a feature, but he ran out of money. But it's on the Deadbeat It on Blu-ray, so you don't want to see it.
Oh wow!
So it's like a little mini Eaten Alive. But Van Beber's pretty sharp. Definitely. I don't see a direct influence per se of that movie in his work, but I see that era. this all over Deadbeat at Dawn. I mean, I I heard two guys talking the other day, and they were like they couldn't decide uh, Tex- whether Deadbeat at Dawn was a horror movie or an action movie or both, and neither of them seemed that bright, but it was a valid point, because people do get confused,
It
and that's
blurs the distinction.
it does. We happily and giddily covered Deadbeat at Dawn in one of our early episodes, so you guys watch it, should check it out. One of our former panelists did an amazing job breaking down all of Ben Beber's work and that movie especially.
I remember that review actually. Yeah,
Yeah, you were there.
about 2 years ago. Yeah.
So what happened over the years? You were talking about this corporate buyout and everything with New Line AC, and I've seemed to have forgotten a lot of the circumstances. If you remember, tell me, or if you feel they're pertinent. But somehow this sequel, written by L.M. Kit Carson, fell into Hooper's lap, and I kind of forgot the exact.
It went to Canon as part of Hooper's 3-picture deal with Canon.
Okay.
And what had happened with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 was Canon had a fixed release date that they were going to get the film in theaters. So the production was done at lightning speed.
Wow,
and that
it doesn't look like it.
A lot of problems for everybody because they had a drop dead date that the film had to be finished by. So Hooper did a lot of the film, but I know some of the footage was done by a second unit team because they just didn't have a lot of time. But it was one of his Canon films. The other two, of course, were the legendary Life Force and the remake of Invaders from Mars.
Right.
1 out of 2.
And not a single one of those movies really made any money for Canon or Hooper or anybody.
It didn't make the money they wanted to, but it's funny, by the time I saw it in 1992, it was legendary.
Oh,
As legendary as the first one, and I believe it's because it's the opposite of Chainsaw. It is extremely gory and nasty.
It's extremely gory, and
some of it makes me wince now.
And the tone is completely different because it plays hard into the comedy. Whereas in the first one, the comedy's there, but the comedy makes you shake and cringe and like want to escape from the movie. Whereas in the second one, you're just laughing because it's so ridiculous.
But as it goes on, it becomes more horrific and less comedic.
It sure does.
I mean, the last scene is definitely not comedic. I mean,
not at all.
Unless you just like making fun of the way Chop Top talks, of course.
No, but and what it is, I think some of that is obviously it wasn't a high budget film, but they had more money.
The production values are fantastic.
It looks
Did they build that entire tourist trap?
Yes.
Yeah. They built the underground caves and all that stuff. I mean, it's spectacularly designed too, and it has Dennis Hopper in it. So
Hopper's the star and the big name, and that's cool. I love Hopper, and around that time I was watching like The American Friend and any number of films with him. It was one reason I rented this, other than I'd just seen the first one. And I was like, oh, Dennis Hopper. But he really stretches the protagonist.
Sure. Hopper doesn't have a whole lot to do. He shows
Carolyn Williams
with his two chainsaws.
Yeah. And again, they tie the continuity pretty well. They do a faux beginning speech about what happened back in 1973. Different narrator, however, great voice. I don't know his name. He's done a lot of trailers. He's speaking a little bit too fast, though. Like somebody's rushing him to get through him. And it always bothers me because Texas Chainsaw will never Texas will never recover. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, calm down. But
kind of sounded like William Conrad in a way.
I don't think it was, but it does. Yes. Yeah. There is a guy. That guy has done a lot of trailers, but I cannot.
Yeah.
There's a few trailer guys that I have found out. One is Adolf Caesar. He did most of those drive-in blaxploitation.
Adolf Caesar, for our viewers, did all of the Dawn of the Dead trailer and TV spots. And you can definitely recognize his voice. The other guy, and I'm wondering, I can't remember, I haven't seen Chainsaw 2 in a while, was it Percy Rodriguez? Because Percy Rodriguez did all of the Jaws sequels, the Jaws films, and he has an incredibly good and distinctive voice.
Yeah, this guy's kind of I don't know if you'd call it a baritone. It's like the massacre haunts Texas. And it's like I've been hearing that voice I heard him in trailers on TV since I was a kid. And so I would love to find exactly who that is, because it was a revelation when I found out about Adolf Caesar. I mean, he didn't get recognition as a on-screen actor until Officer and a Gentleman, right? Isn't the film?
Soldier Story. He got.
Okay, I get him mixed up. And then a few years later, He died. So
Yeah. But he did a lot of the New York City exploitation trailers for like Aquarius, Terry
yes.
Levine's outfit. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, I think Levine might have had him do every trailer, like
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Lee Returns from the Dead.
He did the Dolomite, a couple of the Dolomites.
Dolomite.
Pam Greer's,
Yeah.
incredible.
But the writer on Chainsaw 2 is L.M. Kit Carson.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very literate writer. He worked with Jim McBride, and they did Breathless, which is a great remake of an old French New Wave film.
Is it a great movie? Because half the people I know hate it, and I love it.
I think Breathless is great. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, gears over the top for sure. And it's a product of the 80s, which means it's very brightly filmed with lots of color and neon and music.
Neo-noir.
It's a great movie, and Gear's performance is like over the top, but he's fun,
I've had it on my watch list for decades.
Me and Monica gonna go to Mexico, Silver Surfer,
Yeah, that's my best friend.
Killer.
My best friend at the time saw that in the theater, and he was telling me about the Silver Surfer thing, and
Yeah.
I didn't believe him. It just seemed too good to be true.
No, it is. But that's Carson, the writer, who again he worked with Jim McBride, and McBride was another director that, oh man, should have had a tremendous career, because his first film out was David Holtzman's Diary from 1967.
Oh, he did that one?
The first mockumentary.
Oh, I didn't know.
So you had a guy that had indie cred in Carson working with Hooper, which I remember when that sequel was being made. I think it was in Film Comment. They did a huge article about the filming of Chainsaw Massacre 2 that I read.
Oh.
And they talked to Carson and all the in-jokes. But as you said, Henry, the tying in of the mythology from the first film and sort of making it a continuation, where the latter sequels or the later sequels, it's not there.
You have to do some advanced mental gymnastics to in any way think that any of those movies after 2 would fit in the same universe as the first 2. Though some people, including our own beloved Tim Tolbert and I think Rhonda Baughman, they have cases to be made that they're direct sequels. Having just rewatched 4, I have always considered 4 a remake. If you wanted to just take out the fact that some of the scenes are shot for shot from the first movie, then maybe you could just say Leatherface wandered over to another new family with Matthew McConaughey, and it's like, why does he keep doing this? What is the deal? And this time, this Leatherface, they leaned into the feminine side of Leatherface. He's always had that sexual ambiguity with his makeup, and he does the chores around the house and wears an apron. In this movie, he's slight of frame, and I was like, I'd never seen a Leatherface that slight of frame. And I mean, he's not tiny or anything, but he's not Gunnar Hansen or the second guys. I tried to study it as I watched it because I only seen it one other time, and it was hard. I'm not through it yet. It's tough. It's tough going. I mean, it's sad to know that Kim Hinkle wrote this and directed it. It is very 80s, and I don't mean that in any kind of good way this time. I usually mean it in a good way, but it is just bottom of the barrel, post slasher movie, just completely. I don't know. To me, it makes Leatherface, the third movie, look brilliant. Jeff Bird's Leatherface, I do think is better than it gets the credit for.
I think it is too. It had a troubled production. They had to cut a lot out to get the R rating, and
it has some great gore. Yeah,
it does. It has some good in it.
Ken Foree's in it, right?
Yeah, Ken Foree's in that one, and I forget the name of the female lead. She's good in it.
Yeah, she is.
And it's pretty well filmed.
It is.
But
Jeff Burr claimed on that documentary that Gunnar Hansen was cast and ready to do it, but then they wouldn't give him enough money, so it didn't work out. And he said if I do it, Jeff Burr said, if I do it over, I would have gone to bat all the way for Gunnar. And I'm thinking, you probably wouldn't have. I mean, you probably get the movie finished. No, I'm kidding. He might have, but at least they thought of him. At least they thought to put him back in the movie. I didn't get a final verdict, and it might be my attention span on why Gunnar Hansen didn't return for the second one. I know there have been stories, but I can't remember anything clearly. And there's 2 Leatherfaces in that one. There's 2 actors, right? There's like Bill Johnson and Bob something or other. More one is like the body shots and some of the posters, and then one is all the close-ups and acting and stuff like with stretch. So Bill Johnson, I think, is the guy who did the latter, and so he's more well known, like the face of Leatherface. I love 2. 2 is a mess. It's a train wreck. But if you
It's a
haven't,
glorious train wreck.
it is, and I'm a serial fiction guy. I write it, I follow it, long form storytelling. I've never been able to write short stories. I like them, but I don't usually read them anymore. And so anything that continues like a saga and does it in a good way, and many of these properties are not going well anymore. But whenever it's a chance to be a continuation, no matter how old the actors are, rather than a reboot, I will go with continuation. I do not support reboots in general. I just don't. There might be some good ones. I'm just saying the concept I don't support. It's like make up a new story. It's the most frustrating thing about being into movies or media and being online, and I've said many times, is reading fan bros try to impress each other and other people with their knowledge, which they are nothing. They know nothing. They do no research. They experience nothing. They sit around and hear what some other person says and circulates it around, and then by the time you get to any nugget, they don't even have a point. Their point becomes Star Trek shouldn't have black women. Brilliant, dude. Brilliant. And these are the kind of people who are gradually, no joke, these are the kind of people who are gradually becoming school shooters. It's pathetic. It's really pathetic. Incels. They go from this fan bro to incel to school shooters. How it ties in with the first one in the introduction, they say five young people, and they say, including Sally Enright Hardesty. So the only way I can read it is that their father's named Enright, his brother worked at the slaughterhouse, was named Enright. Lefty Enright's their other brother, who played like Dennis Hopper. The mother's maiden name is Hardesty, and for some reason, Sally took this hyphenated name, and Franklin took the mother's name. So I think that makes total sense. Now, if I walked up to some people, they'd be like, no, there's no evidence for that in that movie. That's what I call the literalists. It didn't happen. You're just making it up. It's like, no, I'm extrapolating from evidence. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm trying to make it easier for people so they don't argue over the lore and they try to enjoy the content of the work. Because that's how geeks are, including myself. Sometimes we get caught up in those kind of details to the exclusion of, is it a quality piece of work? But that's how I feel about Texas Chainsaw 2. I think the consistencies with the brothers are fine. Now, there are people who have written both essays and fan fiction, and I've written one. I wrote one called Twisted in Texas. It was about 70,000 words. It's now lost to history. But my contention was that all those families are blood related. The Fireflies, the Hills Have Eyes, the Sawyers. It's very elaborate, and they're related to tons of other movie characters.
Yeah, they're probably all descended from the Sawney Bean clan.
Right.
Yeah, there's some Sawney Bean. In these kind of works, what some people have used for shorthand for the other two brothers is just the names of the actors. So Hitchhiker would be Edward Sawyer, and Chop Top would be William Sawyer. So Leatherface, his name is very debated because they do reveal Leatherface's name throughout all the movies, and it's always different. The most common modern one is Thomas Hewitt, so they don't even use the Sawyers anymore, and that I don't know where they got this. So I call him Thomas Sawyer. I think that's a joke because of Tom Sawyer. That's what I called him on this family tree I made. So there's Thomas, Edward, William, and Drayton. I think there's some parts of that movie because of the way it's directed, what was prevalent at that time in slasher movies, and we can't not say Tom Savini being so involved in it. I mean, what Tom Savini created for that movie is just a tableau of grotesque proportions on every level. I mean, making the woman wear her best friend's face to hide while the best friend's still barely alive with his ribs hanging out. That's some nasty fucking shit, man. There's some the nastiest images in any of the Texas Chainsaw movies. And I respect that. I wince at it, but I respect the ballsiness to do it and try to blend it somehow with comedy. And then by the end, it's like, Stretch has become like primal at the end. That's her way of surviving, right. Because she's been through everything Sally's been through, tied up, and, they all fuck with her. And of course, like they said, the face, which really disturbs me. And then when she gets free, once Lefty comes in and rescues everybody, that's Dennis Hopper. I think he throws a grenade, or maybe no, it's Drayton who throws a grenade he had from the war.
Right.
We don't know which war.
Yeah.
It's probably either a Korean war. Lefty does manage to emasculate him with his chainsaw. Not graphically, but that seems to be what happens. Drayton takes it pretty well, all things considered. And after they're all blown up, you don't really know what happens to Leatherface exactly. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I think he gets taken out with the grenade.
yeah, I thought that was maybe the implication. But Chop Top's persistent, so he follows her all the way outside and up to the top of this tower. This part of the tourist trap, the outside of it. It's incredible. Like he's climbing up this mountain and he's slashing her back with a razor half the time there. And then when she gets up there, she finds Grandma, and Grandma's obviously dead. But you never know because of Grandpa. And apparently, Chop Top thought Grandma was alive, or else he deluded she was alive. But she has a chainsaw sitting with her. So that's what you do with your grandma if you really loved her. You would make a big memorial on a tower of her sitting mummified with a chainsaw. And Stretch decides she's going to try to start the chainsaw. Totally unlikely. So while she's trying to do that, Carolyn Williams is just acting at total peak. I mean, I haven't seen her in much else, but a few things, but nothing like that. And Chop Top is slicing her back with the razor. It's just nasty. And then she, guts him literally with the chainsaw. And after he, falls, and he falls all the way down the chute back into the underground passage to the tourist trap. And then she holds the chainsaw like it's victory, and she swirls around like Leatherface does in the first movie.
Come on, buddy.
And she's really like she's conquered the Sawyers, and she'll never be the same again. And I did hear also from Tim, he would have to confirm this. He said, and I don't remember this, maybe you guys do. He said that Carolyn Williams does play Stretch in a tiny cameo in the Leatherface Jeff Burr movie. Is that true? I don't remember.
I don't remember it either. Maybe.
But so, maybe you could say 3's a legit sequel if you want to stretch it. But beyond that, let me just mention a few of the remakes and some points about them. Nothing in depth. But okay, the one in 2003 that Michael Bay produced, total shit, garbage, trash. The 2013 3D version is a direct sequel to the first one. And like I may have said before, they made the terrible mistake of making the first 5 minutes edited clips from the first movie. And they look incredible. And then they're somehow trying to match their footage. And Rob Zombie, he could have maybe at least done a better job than whoever directed this mess.
Marcus Smith. No, I don't know who directed this.
Yeah, they burned down the farm, and they have a black sheriff. And first of all, would they have a black sheriff in Texas in 1973? I don't know, maybe. But he's still a redneck, and they got rid of the Sawyers, we killed them all, and then they flash forward 20 years, which, like I said earlier, in the original script was to 1994, but due to the studio saying it's modern, actually 40 years have gone by, but only 20 years have gone by. So it's like there's a time travel that they're never going to address because the average person who goes to see Texas Chainsaw 3D probably can't do math. So they don't give a fuck, And then there's a 2010s one with Lily Taylor. Again, Leatherface's origins radically changed from the other ones. And so that's a remake. Oh, it's a sequel to the previous remake that came after 3D, which was a sequel to the original, and then those came after the modern remakes. So that's, as a story, it's been remade at least 4 to 5 times, like from whole cloth almost. And so in 2022, you had this remake, which it also claims to be a direct sequel to the original, and tries to finally answer the question, what happened to Sally Hardesty? Her name is Olwen Fuere. She is an Irish Celtic actress. She plays Sally Hardesty. She replaces Marilyn Burns, who died in 2014. Now, she's also the woman who played the crazed sister in the cult in Mandy that tried to seduce Nicolas Cage and got her head chopped off. She was really nasty in that. So I haven't seen this movie. Have any of y'all seen this 2022 version?
I have.
And so what does it do with Sally?
Well, they decide, not very originally, that since they're going to continue the story much later, they're going to do a Jamie Lee Curtis in the Halloween reboot, which is she's going to come back and she's going to try to be a destroyer of this evil family. And there's a big slaughter scene on a bus, which is probably the best scene in the movie, but I thought it really sucked. Just, again, why? The whole way through the movie, I kept thinking, why are we going through this again?
Why couldn't they just get like Kit Carson to write what happened to Sally?
Yeah, it's
She's been in an institution for 40 years or something. I mean,
yeah, it's just not good. And I'm looking. Actually, the story was written by Fede Alvarez. So
I'm mixed on him.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
as a director, he's got a good eye.
Yeah, he has a good eye, but I
I
don't
don't
know.
think much of his writing, though.
No, this movie just doesn't work. I mean, he's a producer on it too.
Hmm.
It's a bunch of dumb kids again. You know, the same old deal.
Brody.
Oh my God, and a dog. I heard heart.
Sorry.
There's a canine. Is that your canine, Chuck?
Yes, it is.
You don't have to be sorry. Animals are welcome on the show.
Well, maybe this will make a good breaking point where I leave you, gentlemen. I
All right.
enjoyed the discussion.
It's been a pleasure,
Thank you
sir.
for your
Always a pleasure with you guys.
information.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Take
sir.
care.
Talk to you
Be
soon.
good.
Adios.
Bye-bye.
Farewell.
Which one of those chainsaw sequels has R. Lee Emery as the sheriff in it?
That's the Michael Bay one.
Yeah.
That's the Michael Bay one. Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't get that one straight. I have a copy of it,
He's
but I
he's a
didn't
good
watch
actor.
it.
Which I think might be the one bright spot of the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
And,
Rob Zombie
kind of
already.
interestingly, the way they reconfigure the family, where
Yeah.
suddenly the sheriff is part of it.
Right.
See,
I'm
I
just
feel like
wondering if the
Huh, go ahead.
2022 film might have been the Netflix one I saw about 2022 or 23. I saw it on Netflix. It
Right.
might be the same one, you know, but
Yeah.
it wasn't that memorable.
Right.
Not like the original. Yeah. Henry, by the way, I watched it this morning for the first time on my phone. So thanks for the YouTube link. But it's going to be coming to the Astor, our local classic cinema, on the 1st of November. So maybe I should go and see it at the
You should
cinema.
go.
Right.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
the big screen.
On the big screen. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Join the few, the proud who've seen it in the theater.
Yeah.
And
And not vomit it.
All right, everybody. So that was our in-depth dive into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974 and various thoughts on its sequels, reboots, and remake. I think we covered a lot of ground. I'm very proud of our panel here who did a great job. We will be back with a whole new topic next month, but this will be the capstone of our Halloween era stuff. So I hope you enjoy it. Before we go, my co-host Justin Cotton has a message for everyone who's watching.
Well, thanks all for watching as always. And we try and cover not only iconic films like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but also films that are off the beaten track you might not actually have heard of, but we hope we lead you to discover them for the first time. But please remember to like the videos, subscribe to our channel because we value the audience share, obviously, and you subscribing to our channel and hitting the notification bell as well to get our updates. And please leave a comment if you want to contribute to the discussion. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Hope you had a happy Halloween.
Adios.
And it's true that we cannot see that far behind. If we looked all the way in the past, we'd go blind. In the night, from the stars as they've all lived their lives, and the light that they gave as they burned and then died.